Sir Players, it's your homie C-Rod, back at it again with another video, and in today's video, I'm gonna give you the most affordable decks that you could potentially build in Dragon Ball Super card game if you are brand new to the game and are, trying to get into the card game. And it's a very fun game, so these are the decks that I would recommend if you're trying to start playing the game, have some fun, and not break the bank. First up on the list, we got Bulma. Bulma is a very powerful leader, and she has a pretty insane ability of making all Saiyans and Earthling cards in the battle area into blockers. This is very strong because you're going to be able to defend Bulma from dying, and she has an Activate main that allows you to draw one card. Then you get to awaken, restand 2 of your energies, and then Bulma just becomes a lot more stronger. Bulma is really affordable, and she does not cost a lot on her own. The whole deck is running around like $10-15. The most expensive card in the deck that you could potentially get is the super rare, and the super rare is running around $2 to $3 or $5 maybe right now. But the deck is very powerful. She has more drawing when she is awakened, and she ultimately has the same ability of making all your Saiyans and Earthlings into blockers. If you're trying to get into Dragon Ball Super card game, I would definitely recommend Bulma to start off with. Very strong, very powerful, and honestly, very affordable. Son Gohan makes the list because honestly the deck is relatively cheap to actually build, and if you get all the components which have to do with Gohan himself, Son Goten, and Trunks, we're able to actually build a really good deck. The most expensive card in the deck only costs around $2, which is the super rare, which is Son Gohan and Son Goten Familial Bonds. This deck right here is honestly really fun to play. It revolves around Gohan dealing burn damage with its leader's ability, and then you bring out Goku, Goten, and Gohan super rare to finish the job with a triple strike and the alliance ability. This deck right here is one that you definitely should build if you're trying to get into Dragon Ball Super card game, you're on a budget, and you're a big fan of Ultimate Gohan, or just, Gohan in general. Next up on the list, we got Son Goku and Vegeta fusing with the Potara earrings. This blue leader is a very strong leader and really fun to play, and if you're a fan of Vegito, this is one that you should definitely build, especially if you are, in a budget. The reason this deck is so affordable is because the finisher of the deck, Metric Energy Super Saiyan Blue Vegito, only seems to cost around $2 to $3, and this is honestly the finisher of the deck. Every other Goku and Vegeta card necessary to build the deck is relatively cheap, and honestly it's really powerful, and you can get a lot of people off guard with the Vegito super rare's locking ability. And when you awaken, this leader just becomes even more powerful. He attacks, draws a card, and will ultimately lock out your opponent and get you the game. Oob is a leader that's very underrepresented in Dragon Ball Super card game, but he is also very powerful, and the good news is that he is really affordable. Oob is a leader that actually used to be very competitive and would take the games in the tournament scene. What does Oob do? Well, on Awaken, when this card attacks the leader card, you draw one card, and then when your life is at 4 or less, you get to choose up to 2 of your energies, switch them to active mode, and flip this card over. This Oob deck really doesn't cost that much. It costs roughly around $20, probably less than that, because of the fact that the super rare Pan Proudest Daughter, which is the finisher of the deck, only roughly cost $1 at the moment, and if you get the other super rare, which happens to be the Hercule, it also costs the same, around $1. And Oob Awakened isn't half bad. When he attacks the leader, you draw one card, and then an Activate main that you get to choose one card from your life, add it to your hand, and then you get to choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards and return it to the owner's hand. And he also gains a 5k boost. Oob, without a doubt, is a very affordable, powerful deck. Goku Black is actually one of my favorite leaders to play in Dragon Ball Super card game, and the Goku Black deck is one of the cheapest decks you could potentially buy in DBS TCG. Goku Black is very unique because of its unique ability of getting you an extra energy at the cost of one of your lives. When your life is at 4 or less, you're able to draw 2 cards, flip this card over, and you turn into Goku Black, the Bringer of Despair. This guy gains a double strike if your life is at 2 or less, playing relatively the same as the anime. As Goku Black suffers damage, he becomes more powerful. And the good news is that the big behemoth, the finisher of the deck, Unstoppable Despair Goku Black Rose, the super rare, only cost around 50 cents to $1. This is one of the cheapest decks to get your hands on when you're getting into Dragon Ball Super card game, and if you are a Goku Black player, this is the deck for you to try out. Dende. Who would have thought Dende would actually be a thing and have his own deck? Well, Dende is a very powerful wish leader, which is a unique type of leader in Dragon Ball Super card game that in order to grant yourself the wish and flip the leader over, you need to get all 7 Dragon Ball cards in the drop area, and Dende is able to turn to Piccolo brimming with confidence. And honestly, this deck is relatively cheap and it is a winner deck for sure. The most expensive card in the deck happens to be Clan of Terror Mecha Frieza, and this card used to be very expensive, but right now it's running around $1 to $2, and this is the point of the deck. You bring back and wish back to life Frieza and Frieza cards to ultimately obliterate your opponent, and the Clan of Terror Mecha Frieza promotional card allows you to not only have a double striker on the field, but also see your opponent's hand and be able to finish the job. So we got Bojack. Bojack is the evil villain from the movie, and it is a very fun deck to play. He is a very unique leader because whenever you happen to play a Bojack crew member, the leader gets a 5k boost power and you draw a card. And then another auto that's very unique to Bojack as well, when you combo and if you happen to have 2 or more Bojack crew members in the combo area, you get to choose one of your opponent's battle cards in rest mode and KO it, which is very unique. Then you awaken to the Bojack, the pirate captain, and he does the same thing as his unawakened. But the best part is that the big finisher of the deck, the super rare that finishes your opponent off, only costs about $1 or so. Honestly, it's not too expensive and it really does finish the job. This super rare, when you play it, if you happen to have 5 or more life, you get to choose all your opponent's cards and switch them to rest mode, pretty much locking your opponent out. And then this guy gains dual attack, and honestly, it's a very fun, cheap deck to get your hands on. Ribrianne. Ribrianne, for good news, is not a very expensive deck. It's honestly very affordable, and she is not that bad either. Ribrianne has a unique ability that whenever she attacks, you get to look up to 2 cards from the top of your deck and choose one maiden squadron among them and add them to your hand. Very useful to have all the maiden squadrons on the field to ultimately obliterate your opponent. And when she awakens, she becomes Ribrianne, Maiden of Anger. And she has a very unique ability, an activate main, that if you happen to have Kakunsa and Rosie in play in the battle area, you get to KO one of your opponent's battle cards, which is a very powerful effect. And an auto that when she attacks, you draw 1 card. The super rare only cost about $1 or $2. It's very cheap, and to get all the other cards like the Ribrianne's Maiden Squadrons, it doesn't even cost that much. So Ribrianne is a hand destruction, very powerful deck that you could get your hands on. Honestly guys, Dragon Ball Super card game does not have to be expensive. It's relatively really cheap if you are trying to get into Dragon Ball Super card game. If you want to build a deck that's very theme like, these are a couple decks that are actually very affordable, and you will have the good cards to actually finish off your opponent. If you want to get into Dragon Ball Super card game, I would say do some research, look into it, and for a fact, you will be able to build some decks that you will have a lot of fun with for around $20 or less. So if you guys like this type of video, hit me a good like for more informative type of videos like this one. Subscribe if you are new here. Hit that, red button in the bottom. And like we always say, y'all stay super.